So we went out and did the match, and 20 minutes is a long time, and we were like at the 12-minute mark, and he had put me in the sharpshooter, okay, and I'm supposed to tap out when he puts me in the sharpshooter as a finish, but he's going home like 8 minutes early, and the referee's telling me don't tap, you've got 8 minutes, and I don't even know if he told him that. So I didn't tap. He let go of the hold, and he said, "What the fuck are you doing?" when he picked me up. And I said, he told me not to tap. And I don't know if this is a conversation, so he just picked me up for a suplex, and when he dropped me for a suplex, like a side suplex, he tilted me back and dropped me on my neck. Like, if you watch it, it's like but not super bad, but just enough like a little stiff suplex. And I forgot what the finish what happened after that, but eventually we went home. But yeah, he put me in the sharpshooter to go home, and it was the referee was telling me, "Don't tap. You've got 8 minutes left." So he probably didn't know that. He probably thought I was screwing him on his finish. You know what I'm saying? Because he's got me in the sharpshooter. He can't see the referee telling me don't tap. Because his backs we're facing opposite directions. So I'm not tapping because referee's telling me don't tap.
What was the feeling backstage when Brett came into WCW and he's on this like $3 million a year deal, yet he's complaining they're not making me work enough?
When he first came in, I remember Nash was booking, and Nash wanted him to do a job, like right away, because he had just come from New York where he was refusing to do a job to Shawn, which the whole Montreal screw job. So they want to see, hey, is he going to come here and do business? So it started off bad. And it's kind of like, Brett had a weird relationship with Kevin and, Scott and Shawn and stuff and all those guys, because he didn't like Scott, still doesn't like Scott, but Scott's an easy guy not to like because Scott's got a very critical mouth and will say things to people that you just, he was a good heel backstage. He would get the boys hot. He get the boys hot, and we all know his work, so he would say things to get the boys hot. But Kevin and Brett had always had good, when they worked with each other, they'd always had good matches. And they always respected working with each other because they always went out there. They had good styles. Brett was smaller, Kevin was bigger. Kevin liked to lay in his forearms and stuff, and Brett liked, but they had a falling out a little bit because of, that incident with where Brett not wanting to take Kevin's finish in a match, and because I think Sid and Shawn were working each other, Sid and whatever it was, but like they had a falling out that led Kevin to leave WCW, to go to WCW, right? But he'd always respected Brett's work. But I think maybe that maybe had something to do with it, because Kevin was a booker when he came in about having Brett's got to do a job here because we got to see he was doing business. But Brett doesn't really ever speak bad about Kevin. But Kevin was best friends with Scott, and him and Scott didn't really get, they didn't get along. And Kevin was best friend with Scott, so there was always that little bit of animosity with Kevin because Kevin's best friends with Scott, right? Just, and it's a clique. They were the clique, and Brett still looked in the clip, but Brett had good men. But Brett always respected Shawn Waltman. Him and Shawn got along well because they always had great matches with each other and stuff. So Brett had weird sensibilities with his relationships with some of the other performers. Like, you hear him today. He'll let you know what he thinks about guys. And to this day, he calls Hogan a piece of shit. And so, he's just like, I don't know. He's got very different sensibilities than other people. He's a man of conviction. He respects the business a lot. He's kind of I think he'll even admit he's a mark for business, but him being a mark for the business worked out in his favor because he was that good. And that's the difference between some of these guys. Some of these top guys that main event pay-per-views and stuff, you kind of have to be a mark for yourself a little bit to be that good at doing your character, So that was a good Brett.
Did it ever make sense to you from a creative point of view to not do Hart Foundation versus the NWO?
Not really. I don't. I mean, not really. Yeah.
I don't know, they could have done Anvil and Bret Hart versus the Outsiders.
Yeah, but Anvil at the time, his work wasn't near up to par as Brett's was.
True.
You know. Yeah.
This is a question I've always wanted that. Well, because I've been trying to interview Stevie Richards for a while, but that old horse fucking throat's busy. But in later 1999, in the later 90s, video games really took off once the PlayStation came in. So I'm gonna ask you, what was the feeling like backstage when all these video games started coming out? In regards to WWE, WCW, and do you think that those games, in a way, started bringing in the casuals to watching the TV shows?
So what? The video games did what now?
Do you think that the video games had an effect on the success of the company? Like, because for example, the WCW games started really dipping in quality, while the WWE games were getting better and better. And I think, and for me,
I don't think that had anything to do with the televised product.
I don't know, because like if
there's no way. Wrestling is an episodic television show. All right, you're not getting episodic TV playing the video game. You're just playing the matches. So the quality of the video game would have nothing to do with being interested in the episodic television storytelling, which is what drives the ratings.
But if some geek with 4 eyes and a small penis and a bald head, no offense to Joe Feeney, played, like, I don't know, WCW Revenge or whatever the fuck it was called for the N64, and he didn't watch wrestling, and then someone says, you could actually see this dancing guy on
that
Monday night.
The conversation you're talking about, I would suggest probably never happened ever in the history of life. There's no way anybody's playing the NWO WCW video game that had never seen the show before. If you can find me one person that has, correct me, and I'll put him on the Twitter and post him, let him do a video message. He started playing the WCW video game before he ever watched WCW. If you can find one person that did that, I'd like to know who it is. Because I think you're just making a false. You're making a false. You don't. That's no. You really honestly think that people out there were playing the WCW video game that had never seen WCW?
I think that, yes.
Okay. I would bet you money that that's incorrect.
Okay. Well, I like to win.
Okay. Well, then don't bet me on that one.
But
you won't be able to find anybody.
Not at the minute, because there's an AIDS virus or something going on.
Never.
So 2015, when the WCW's big names, Sting finally came to WWE. He wrestled Triple H at Mania, lost, and the internet shit themselves overnight. When you see fake outrage like that online, does it make you shake your head, or do you go, yeah, good for you guys, stick up for the wrestler?
What do you think I do? I can't believe you actually asked me that question. I've been very clear about what the answer to that would be.
Yeah, but
what do you think the answer is? You asked me a question. What do you think? You know the answer. I shake my head.
Yeah, I think you would say, if I was there, I'd have done a run-in, and we would have beat the bad guys up together.
The outcomes are not real. Okay.
But what I'm saying is, when you see the outrage to these kind of results, like, this is the question really what I've got to ask. What's your take on the rise of grown adults who seem to think wrestling is real again?
They don't think it's real. They think it's art. So they pop when the artists hit each other hard or try to risk injury.
Mm.
That's what they pop for. If you watch, that is what they pop for. And every now and then they'll pop for gimmicky stuff, like when the kid puts his hands in the pockets, and when the guys do their gimmick, they'll pop for that. But ultimately, they don't. This generation didn't grow up watching. Like this generation fans most of them did not grow up watching good wrestling. They grew up watching all the acrobatics. And they think that's, and like, while they're doing this, they're consuming the dirt sheet guys that are telling them how great this stuff is. You know what I'm saying? But the reality is that, like, the people that just do not care about rating the matches and what, that they don't care, those people just stopped watching as these guys started doing more acrobatic stuff. And honestly, that is what has caused the decline in the fans, because you can point